Now let's see that what is Python. Python is a higher level programming language. What it actually means? It means there are also lower level language. Lower language is the machine language, which is the series of the zeros and ones that we have discussed in the binary section multiple times. What is a higher level language? Higher level language is more like English like or language like, with the set of the logics that we humans can understand. If I write the billions of the zeros and ones, even if I do, that will only be understood by the machine, and the chance of the error and the lack of understanding is very high in us as the humans, and we will always feel like we are confused. So to not get confused and become a super engineer, you need something that you can play with, and in our case it's the higher level programming language. So if we have a programming language which is higher level programming language, we surely need the lower programming languages and the translator for all the lower programming languages. So let's see that how it actually works. Let's get to our board. So there is something called as HLL, higher level language, that's get converted into assembly language. Assembly language, as we have discussed in the electronics section and we have already gone through. So finally it will going to get converted into machine language, which is called lower level language, and assembly language is sometimes called as mid level language, which is COBOL or Fortran that we have seen actually. For example, COBOL, and in this we have the example of Python itself. And this is binary, zeros and ones, the sequence of the zeros and one. So what a machine actually understands? Machine understands this language. So here is our machine, a computer. Here is our CPU or GPU, and here is our mouse. So what a machine understands? Machine actually understands the zeros and ones. And what we human understand easily is actually higher level language. And what is the intermediate? It's the assembly language. Assembly language is the core concept that is coded to build the digital electronics. Means the electronic components are coded in this one. The chips, the ICs, integrated circuits, the CPU is actually programmed in this one, that what it should get, so what it should tell the machine to do. So this is the way, that is the intermediate program. Okay, with all that said, let's come to the next level. Next level is uses of the interpreter. Well, surely we need the interpretation of our program. We need the interpretation so that the machine language comes in role. So we need a compiler or an interpreter. In our case we are using the interpreter. I have not written the compiler here because there is a slight difference between these two. So let's understand the difference. So here we are. So first of all, at the first place we have compiler and we have interpreter. So what it actually do? Compiler translates all at once. And interpreter translates along the flow of program. What does that mean? That means when you write, as soon as you write or finishing writing the one statement or one line, it actually gets converted into machine language by the interpreter. But the compiler can only compile when the all part of the programming that you have written is done. So it first check that if it is done, then it will run. But the interpreter do not act like that. I have written 2 lines and I will going to write more lines, so it will going to interpret these 2 first. So it do the line by line thing. That is the difference. So what it actually gives us, this gives us speed the compiler is fast because it knows that all the connections that are possible in the flow of the program. But the interpreter, as we can see, it is not observing the flow of the program. Instead, it is using one line at a time. So it is comparatively slow. So why do we use the interpreter? Because it can run the program even though the program is not done completely. Who uses the compiler? The compiler is used by Java. Compiler is used by C, C#. Compiler is used by C++. There are so many programming languages. These all are the higher level languages that use the compiler. And who uses the interpreter? Our favorite, Python uses the interpreter. So that is the most important difference between the compiler and the interpreter. Now let's get to the another point, which is object-oriented programming. So there are two kinds of the programming languages that I would like to tell you. First one is object-oriented programming, and the second one is our functional programming language, such as Lisp. Lisp is an example of functional programming language. Let me write that so that you will understand. L-I-S-P. Lisp is functional programming language, FPL. It uses the lambda calculus. But you do not need to know about lambda calculus and all that kind of things. Lisp was first made to use for the AI programming languages. Well, that's all what we need to do. What we need to learn about that. What are the object-oriented programming? Object-oriented programming are the programming actually that tells us about the objectivity of the program. Well, so let's imagine that what is the difference between the object-oriented programming and the function programming. So first of all, what we actually have is in object-oriented programming, if you have a specific task or general task, you can write a program for that. Like you can write the program for the accounts, you can write the program for your scientific calculation, you can write the program to just make the bills. So I use the general life examples. You can do more complex thing with the object-oriented programming, like you can write a game, you can create a game, you can develop a web environment, you can write the codes to develop the web environment, you can write the blockchain, you can write so many things, no doubt in that. So what is the functional programming? Functional programming is more like the mathematical program and oriented to a specific thing. Well, both are the specific, but in this specific, it can do multiple specific things, like it can make games, it can make the website, it can make the bills, it can make the science thing, it can make the accounting software, it can do so many things. And functional programming is advanced maths. Well, I call it advanced maths. It's more complex, but to simply understand it, it's advanced maths. So what actually the advanced math actually used to do? Well, I just written the basic arithmetics, but don't get confused, it's the advanced maths part. So it uses the advanced mathematical concept. So its basic objectivity is to solve the problem which are more complex and which is difficult to solve by the generalization of the results which is given by the object-oriented programmings. That is the key difference. Like if I would like to tell you that if you are solving the quantum mechanic equations in the programming language, yes, you can do that in object-oriented programming, but solving that in functional programming gives it the ease of the thing. So I gave an interpretation for that, but pretty much object-oriented programming has developed so much that functional programming are actually used by very few specific people, like scientists, statisticians, economists use the functional programming language, but rest we all use the object-oriented programming language, and Python is the object-oriented programming language either. So that's all about the Python that we needed to learn before we start the Python itself. I hope you have enjoyed this, and now we are going to elevate our potential for the Python and learn more things in the next one. Till that time, take care, God bless you, and stay curious.